Why be good when nobody is looking? It's a question that's been around forever, right? Well, in this explainer, we're going to dig into some really powerful answers, and we're going to do it all through the lens of one single fascinating story. Let's get into it.
So let's kick things off with a thought experiment from way back, from the ancient philosopher Plato. It's one that cuts right to the absolute heart of what morality is all about. And it starts with a really simple and kind of unsettling question.
No, really, just think about that for a second. If you had a guarantee, 100% guarantee, that you could get away with anything, would you still choose to do the right thing? This isn't just some random question. It's the core of an amazing story from Plato's book, The Republic. Okay, so the story goes like this. Gyges is just a normal shepherd, works for the king of Lydia. One day, there's this huge storm, a massive earthquake, and the ground cracks open. He goes down into this chasm and finds a hollow bronze horse. Inside, there's a dead body wearing nothing but a single gold ring. So, he takes it.
So he's back with the other shepherds, and he's just fiddling with the ring when he accidentally turns the little setting on it inward, and poof, he becomes totally invisible. He tries it a few more times, and yep, it works every single time. So what's the first thing he does? He gets himself sent to the royal palace, uses his invisibility to seduce the queen, and then plots with her to kill the king, and just like that, he takes over the entire kingdom for himself.
And this, right here, is Plato's big question. If you gave one of these rings to a so-called good person and another to a bad person, would they actually behave any differently in the end? Plato's guess was, probably not. He thought we're only good because we're scared of getting caught. Now that idea kicks off a massive debate. And today, we're going to look at 4 very different answers.
All right, first up, we've got a clash between 2 philosophical heavyweights. They look at Gyges' choice from completely opposite angles. One is all about the final score, the results, while the other is focused on the kind of person Gyges is choosing to become.
So, in one corner, we have Jeremy Bentham. He's asking, what are the consequences here? Which choice leads to the most happiness for everyone in the world? And in the other corner, you've got Aristotle, asking a totally different question. Forget the results for a second. What does this action do to you? What kind of person are you building?
Bentham's whole idea is called utilitarianism, and you can think of it like a moral calculator. For any choice you make, you add up all the pleasure it causes for everybody involved, and then you subtract all the pain. The right thing to do is whatever action gives you the highest positive score, the greatest good for the greatest number of people. Simple as that.
So from this utilitarian point of view, that ring is basically a moral minefield. Yeah, sure, Gyges becomes king, and that makes him happy. But look at what he did. Murder, betrayal, taking over a whole kingdom, that creates a ton of suffering and chaos for everyone else. And here's the key. Being invisible doesn't erase the consequences. The world's total happiness takes a nosedive, which makes his actions clearly, without a doubt, immoral.
But then Aristotle would step in and say, whoa, 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 Bentham's little calculator is missing the entire point. Aristotle wouldn't be looking at the world's happiness score, he'd be looking at the state of Gyges' own soul. For him, the most important consequence is what happens inside you.
And this is what we call virtue ethics. For Aristotle, the whole point of life isn't just to feel pleasure, it's to achieve what he called eudaimonia. Think of it as a deep, lasting fulfillment, a kind of human flourishing, or living a life that is truly well-lived. And you get there by practicing virtues like courage, honesty, justice, over and over until they become a part of who you are.
So for Aristotle, the ring isn't a tool for getting what you want, it's a test of your character. He'd argue that by choosing to lie and kill, Gyges isn't just hurting other people, he's fundamentally destroying himself. He's practicing being greedy and unjust, making it totally impossible for him to ever find that true fulfillment, that eudaimonia. The ring gets him a crown, sure, but it costs him the chance to live a genuinely good life. But what if this whole debate about good results versus good character is, well, built on a lie? What if our concepts of good and evil aren't these timeless cosmic truths? What if there's something else entirely?
And that brings us to the, let's say, explosive ideas of Friedrich Nietzsche. He looked at the history of morality and he didn't see people discovering some objective truth. No, he saw them inventing tools that different groups created to get what they wanted.
Nietzsche said there are basically 2 kinds of morality. First, you've got master morality. This is the morality of the strong, the powerful, the rulers. They don't look up to the heavens or into some old book to find out what's right. They are the creators of value.
For them, good is just a word for things like noble, powerful, strong, everything they see when they look in the mirror.
But then there's slave morality. This is the morality of the weak, the oppressed. Since they can't win with brute force, they pull off what Nietzsche called a revaluation of values. It's a brilliant, clever trick. They take their own weaknesses, things like humility, pity, patience, and declare them to be virtues. And evil? Well, evil is just the label they stick on everything the masters value: strength, pride, ambition.
This quote really shows you Nietzsche's unflinching view of the world. He argued that at its core, life is a will to power, a constant drive to grow, expand, and dominate. From this perspective, Gyges using the ring to take the throne, that's not evil. He's just a master creating his own reality, acting according to the fundamental nature of life. For Nietzsche, asking if Gyges is good or evil is asking the completely wrong question.
Okay, so after that pretty radical idea from Nietzsche, let's pivot to a more modern American philosopher who had a totally different goal in mind. Maybe the point isn't to be good or even to be powerful. Maybe it's to be something else entirely. Significant.
This is William James, and he was obsessed with what makes a life feel like it actually matters. He wasn't interested in abstract rules. He wanted to know what makes a human life feel worthwhile, what gives it weight and purpose.
James tells this story about visiting a place called Chautauqua. It was basically a perfect little middle-class paradise. No poverty, no crime, no real struggle of any kind. And he hated it. He found it totally suffocating and called it an atrocious harmlessness. He realized that what gives life its meaning, its zest, is the struggle, the risk, the act of overcoming something difficult.
So James came up with this really neat two-part formula for a significant life. First, you need ideals. You have to believe in something, have a vision for a better world. But ideals by themselves are cheap talk. So you have to add the second ingredient, what he called virtue. The grit, the courage, the willingness to struggle and fight to make those ideals real.
And this brings us right back to that magic ring. For William James, the ring is a trap. It's a cheat code. It gives Gyges a shortcut to everything he wants, but it lets him bypass the one thing that would make any of it meaningful: the struggle. He gets the throne without the battle, the power without the bravery. The ring gives him an easy life, but in the process, it robs him of a significant one.
Okay, so we've traveled from ancient Greece all the way to modern America. We've talked about consequences, character, power, and significance. We now have a toolkit, which means the question comes back around to you. So, next time you're facing a tough choice, you have these 4 different lenses you can look through. You can use the utilitarian lens and ask, what's the impact on everyone else? You can use the virtue ethics lens and ask, what kind of person am I choosing to be right now? You could be a disruptor, like Nietzsche, and ask, wait a minute, whose rules am I even playing by? Or you could be a pragmatist, like James, and ask, will this choice lead me toward a more meaningful life?
Look, there's no single easy answer here. And that's really the whole point. These ideas don't give you the answers, but they do give you better questions to ask. So just imagine it for a second. The cool, heavy gold of the ring settles onto your finger. You have absolute power and perfect secrecy. What happens next is entirely up to you.